So what kind of Rode mic is it?
It's a Rode Video Mic Pro, so it's one of the ones, it sits on a hot shoe, but it has like these bungee cords attached to it, so it knocks out any noise or sound, which is really nice. I got it when I first started, so that was fun.
Yeah. Does it actually work though?
Yeah, no, it picks up really good. It comes with a rather large, what they call a dead cat, which is that fuzzy thing that goes over the microphone, kind of like this, but a lot fuzzier.
Yeah.
And so we had it. I don't know where it went.
Yeah.
It's somewhere. My wife and I, it was really funny. We were like, we've seen it around the house. Where is it?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. It's like you find stuff like that and you're like, oh, that's where it's at. And then a month later you need it and you're like, I have no clue where it was.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was so fun.
Yeah. I just did that the other day. We moved about a year and a half ago. But I remember seeing something when we moved and then I needed it the other day, some paperwork. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have no clue where it's at. So I searched all the closets, all the boxes in the garage, and come to find out the very first box I looked in, it was in there. So I had to go all the way back with starting over, and I found it. But yeah, I wondered how those mics actually do.
They pick up really well, especially so they have settings on the back of them too.
Yeah.
You just plug in headphones and you listen, and it sounds just like this.
Really?
Really good quality.
Huh.
Yeah.
Because that's why, like, when I first started doing these, one of my first videos, like, the audio was horrible. Because I shoot it on an iPhone, which we've talked about it before. Like, the quality of the video can be, 4K, but the audio is just horrible. Right. And I was researching. I finally found just a voice recorder. This is a Tascam. And then I researched how to actually sync the audio and the video up, when I edit it. And I loved it. It's great. But some of the other stuff I want to do, I'm like, I can't really have a mic in this, out in the field doing stuff. So maybe I'll check into that mic. And
you should. It's decent. It works really great. I liked it. I used to. So this is really funny, right? So for my master's degree, I had to do audio.
Yeah.
We had to do like podcast style. And what I would do is I would go into one of our closets, and it was all, had all the clothes in there, so it was very insulated.
Yeah.
No sound coming in, and I would just go in there with me and my camera and that microphone and just, yes, and this happened on this day with this thing.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
Yeah.
And it sounded like
great.
Sounded like radio quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. I never thought that audio, like in post-production when I'm doing it, like how much, like there's so much you can change and, manipulate, and, it can sound horrible, it can sound great. And then like what you did, the best thing is to create a good environment to capture good audio in the first place. But sometimes I haven't done that, but yeah. So and this will kind of already get us into it, but you said your master degree. So what did you go to school for? For
the master's degree or for my bachelor's degree? All right, so
or we can start wherever.
My bachelor's degree it's really funny, and it was a pain to write on all of my forms, but I have a bachelor's degree in interdisciplinary studies with minors in Greek and pre-seminary studies. Basically,
People probably think you're just making that up.
basically, like when somebody just asks for like straight up,
Yeah.
what is that?
Yeah.
It's a religion degree.
Yeah.
I study the Bible.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And then my master's degree was in new media journalism. So I studied, writing. What else? I had to create my own website. From there, I had to create video. We had to do photography. We had to learn how to create infographics. We had to every week we had to go out and publish a new story,
Really?
Which was fantastic. So I'd go out. I'd schedule everything on Monday. I'd go out Tuesday, Thursday, and shoot video or photography. And on Sunday, I'd publish every week. It was a thrill because you get to talk to new people,
Yeah.
you get to learn their stories, but then you get to create and showcase what they were. And what I did for my kind of field of study, everybody, it was a year process. So throughout that year, you kind of figured out your niche. I started off wanting to do maybe politics. Then I found out that wasn't really my game.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, maybe technology. I love technology. But really in Central Florida, there wasn't that big of a thing.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, so not that. Well, what can I do? With a degree in religion, well, I loved people.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know what people were doing good in their community. And so that's really what I focused
what you went
on.
after.
And so the rest of my piece from probably month 3 through, I guess, the rest of the 12 months, so the 9-month period, each week I was covering somebody who was doing good in the community. And it resonated. I had these guys who did they worked on for a nonprofit work camp every year. There with high school and middle school people coming in, and it was brilliant. But they talked about what kind of hope it gave for the community.
Yeah.
And I had this camp counselor on top of a roof with a video. I was videotaping it. Got him just, getting him emotional and how he felt like this was his purpose, is to show light and hope and being there for his community. And I was like, okay, I'm about this.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Huh. And that's good. I mean, did you, not only are you learning and you're doing this for your school, but did it have an impact on you just seeing all the positive, because you think of news and stuff and it's typically not what you went and did,
Right.
You know what I mean? But did you see a change?
Yeah. And I do, I do that for my day job.
Yeah.
Right? There are things what I have to cover that are news, and that have to do who, what, when, where, why, and how.
Yeah.
But then there's other stories that I get to cover, and there's so much positivity. One thing that I found out about Madisonville and Hopkins County is that there are so many people here who want good, who want to see change, who want to make the place better than it is or was, or getting it back. Everybody always makes fun of the best town on earth motto.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because they all make fun of it. But as soon as they make fun of it, they say, "But it could be."
Yeah.
And it can be.
Yeah.
And we're going to get it back there.
Yeah.
And I always think that's it brings light to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let me pause real quick and say this because I always forget it. This is my guest, Brandon Buchanan. And we've kind of alluded to some of the stuff, but you work for the Messenger paper.
I do.
Correct?
Yeah.
What would are you a journalist, or what would be your
My proper title is reporter.
Reporter?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And when I made the comment about news and a lot of it being negative, I didn't mean it necessarily towards because I think of the Messenger. I don't ever see anything negative in that. And to be honest, a lot of newspapers I really don't. But some of the, I guess if you were just getting on Facebook and if there's a headline news story, or if you get on some of these big news channels, it can make you depressed, scared, anxious. It's not the uplifting type stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's cool that I agree with you. Talking to people, they may kind of make fun of that motto, but people see the hope, and it's good to see people that want the good to come, in a community.
Let's see, was it coming up at the YMCA? They're having a cook-off to raise money. It's a campaign, but they've already sold out.
Yeah,
and that just because they want to bring good and positivity to the community, and boom, just like that, they got all these like city leaders, county leaders, young professionals, people who want to see good, come out. We're gonna cook for you.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's really fun.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's things like that that just, I don't know, make my day better.
Yeah. I think it would be cool, like to do what you're doing, like you kind of alluded to earlier, just getting to talk to people and know people, like, and that's one reason I do this. I mean, my day job, I don't necessarily get to do that in the extent you do, so I love that too. Just getting to know people, know their story, and in my way, by doing this, somehow kind of put it together and showcase it, Cool. But yeah, people are interesting, and their stories are very interesting, and I guess one of my questions to you was, have you always kind of had that passion to know people and know their story, and that's what led you into this path? Or
so it's really funny. At heart, I'm an introvert, so I actually hate people, and not necessarily like hate them.
No,
but I hate being around them.
Yeah.
It stresses me out. So like, if you see me at like one of the larger events, I was the only guy in. One of the women's clubs meetings. It was their Christmas auction, and it was a lot of fun. But I was the only guy.
Yeah.
And not that should be anything, but hey, I just got freaked out, and so I was hiding in the corner. And then I was at a farm to fork event or something like that, and also was against a wall. And it wasn't until I was like, okay, I know that person. I'm gonna go talk to them first.
Yeah.
All right, and then. So I have to, like, even though large crowds freak me out, if I can focus in on one, I'm okay. I think what resonated with me, I said I had a religion degree.
Yeah.
I was a youth pastor for a while. And when I was a youth pastor, I didn't like the event planning, but I loved teaching, and I loved talking about Jesus to people. And I was like, okay, how can I do that? I was like, well, I don't know. I like researching. What can I do with that?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's journalism. Maybe I'm going out and, I was joking with a pastor friend of mine. I said, I'm not saying good news of Jesus, right? But I am going out and I'm spreading good news. Right? Euangelion is the Greek word for that.
Yeah.
And I always found that word so fascinating, right? What is good news? What does that mean? And so hopefully, with some of the stories that, with people that reach out to me and I talk to them, I hope I get to spread a little good news.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's cool to think too. Like a lot of times you think about like, oh, well, I'm called to some form of ministry, and a lot of people think, well, it has to be behind a pulpit or it has to be inside a church. But it's cool to hear you say like you felt it in a different way, and it's still the same thing. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Like I really did. I struggled with event planning, and with youth ministry. I mean, that was a big portion of it. Inviting them out there. But where I thrived was going to their lunchrooms and listening to their stories of what their day was.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is
just
so
meeting
cool.
them where they're at.
Yeah, just being with them.
Yeah.
I was like, how can I do that? And this was one of those ways where I can sit and listen to other people.
Yeah.
and that's what I do. Like, I dreaded phones, especially even in that time as a youth director. I would have to call people, and I would dread it. But becoming a journalist, going, okay, I have to do this.
Yeah.
I have to
This
call.
is part of it.
If I don't call, I don't have a story. If I don't have a story, I don't have a job.
Yeah.
So it was okay. So it's like one of those adapt or die type mentalities.
Yeah.
And so now I love getting on the phone. I love, I caught somebody off guard the other day, but is in those off guard moments when somebody is, complete candor and, talking and telling you their truth. And I love that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what, this is later on. I try to make an outline because I'm very bad about just like jumping all over the place, but this is far down on the outline, but I'll touch it here. So you're talking about going out and getting stories. I wondered, have you ever just like been out driving around or whatever, kind of see something happening and you go check it out and that becomes a story, or like a new business going up and you're like, oh, I haven't heard of that or seen that, but let me just go over there and just ask some questions, or is most of it already planned and you're reaching out to them early in the week and then going out, or how do you?
Well, I'd like to say it's like that, but
Yeah.
mostly it's doing that research portion. Like I spend a lot of time on Facebook, but it's not, like seeing what my friends are doing. It's seeing what's going on, what's happening.
Yeah.
A lot of times I look at businesses or people who, again, trying to do good in the community. I'm like, all right, so what do some of these nonprofits have in the community that are going on? What events do they have? But not only that, what are they doing? What's their message?
Yeah.
Have we told that message in a while? Has somebody seen that message? Do they know what they're saying? Do they know what they're doing? Do they know how to get involved or how to interact? I was talking with my editor the other day, and we were talking about always making sure we always ask the big six, who, what, where, when, why, and how.
Yeah.
And when we do that, we really get to the basis and the crux of what people need to know.
Yeah.
And so I also love the fact that every time we come to a story, we ask, we always have to approach it, even if it's like a follow-up story, right? We always have to say, okay, maybe our reader didn't read yesterday's paper.
Correct.
So I have to tell all of the same information, but in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to educate them on how they can get involved. That's one of the things I love about journalism, especially community journalism, is getting people involved.
Yeah.
It's all about action. One of my very first stories. Sorry, I don't know if I can actually talk about it. But one of my first stories, there's somebody who had something going wrong with their apartment. And they just needed help. And they didn't feel like they were getting help. And so we wrote about it. And change happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. Okay.
It's powerful.
Yeah. Because you don't realize how much you always hear about how much power words can have.
Yeah.
But until you're getting your words out there, you just don't know. And a lot of days, like, I'll write these things and then I don't think about it. But then somebody will stop me a few days later and say, hey, what were you, when you were talking about this, what was it about? I'm like, you read it? Wow, so cool. I forget. It's not like in college when I would write and it'd just be a professor or maybe a teacher's assistant who would read it. Now it's like everybody.
Yeah, the community. Yeah. I was going to ask that too. Like, how do you know, like, how do you get feedback, like, in the paper? Because, you think of, like, now, like, I'm going to put this on YouTube. After I post it in 24 hours, I can get on and I can see all the analytics of it. I can see, like, the age group of people that read it, how many, how long they watched it, if they liked it, if they gave a thumbs up, thumbs down. I can see all that. But when it comes to, like, the newspaper, how do y'all get feedback? Is it just like what you said, people talking to you a couple days later in the community and they read it? And
yeah, it's a little bit like that, yeah. Recently, we've kind of updated how we've done Facebook.
Yeah.
And so now we're posting our all of our local stories on there.
Online, yeah.
And so for the last week, we've been able to see that. And so we see how many people are interacting with us.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I didn't know it was that many.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. And I was kind of excited. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. I mean, I knew it. I just didn't know it.
Yeah.
When we talk, our Facebook reach, I think, is like we have 20,000 likes on there, and the number of people we reach is a little bit smaller than that, but still we still have a decent reach.
Yeah.
And people are reading our stories and interacting and sharing and commenting, and it's really cool to see that. Like, there was a story. My counterpart, the other reporter at the paper did. He wrote about something that was going on with the county and voter ID registration, and it was amazing because the county clerk, she got on there and was commenting and
That's awesome.
interacting.
Yeah.
And people were, people had their opinions, but they were being able to be educated and informed. And I thought that was really cool.
That is cool. Because without that, they would probably never get a chance to ask those questions or be answered or heard,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And that's one of the other things that's kind of amazing is how accessible people are.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't know people know that.
Yeah.
And it always baffles me. Like, well, we've had this, pothole or this thing over here that's happened. I'm like, well, if you call the city, I mean, that's their job. They want to take care of it because they want to make their city better. And I'm like, I always found that fascinating. I've seen that happen a few times when people are just like, I've gone to a couple of meetings, and the city administrator would be there, and he's like, "Okay, we'll fix that." Just like,
Yeah.
oh,
That's
okay.
all it took.
That's all it took. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they said they had been struggling with it for a while, and they're like, "Okay, we got it."
Yeah.
And then I went back, and yeah,
It was taken care of. Yeah. That's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think sometimes I'm guilty of it too, thinking that some people are so far removed from me, I can't communicate or voice an opinion or something. But even within where I work, you see it, like if it's your boss's boss, like somebody way up, you're kind of intimidated to talk to him. But from my experience just in work, sometimes when I voice stuff to them, they're like, "Oh, okay, well here," and I'm like, "Oh, it's that easy,"
Yeah.
But we get scared or intimidated or yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
And until I had this job, I don't know, I was always leery of just talking to people, but really, if you call, you have a reason to call.
Yeah.
Like, they want to talk.
Yeah.
And they want to listen. A lot of people just want to listen and help you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really beautiful is how many helpers there are.
Yeah.
Like, with Mr. Rogers, always look out for the helpers.
Yeah.
There's a lot out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just wanna help.
Yeah. That's awesome. So here's another question I got, and I know there may be a lot of answers to this, but can you take me through the process of, okay, you're on Facebook, you see something's going on, and you wanna write a story on that week. What's the process like as far like setting it up, doing it, and then once you get back to the paper, like post, interview, and all that?
Most of my job is done in a day.
Yeah.
Which is really crazy for a turnaround time. So there will be some where I'll have more time. So like this weekend, I had a story about James Van Leer, the first black student in the white schools here in the community. And that story was really cool because I got to spend a little bit more time with it.
Yeah.
I got to go down to the Historical Society. I got to go down to the Genealogical Society and look in our archives and really get to know what was going on.
Yeah.
Most days, what happens is either we see something moving on our wire pieces, which means, we have AP stories, and what we'll do is we'll take either national or statewide stories, and we'll try to put that in the local context.
Spin on it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so because I have a few beats, so I have education, health, and then general people doing good in the community.
Yeah.
And so what I do is I look up what's going on, what new legislation is coming through, how does that affect our educators, and then I'll reach out to the district probably the night before, say, hey, I have the story idea. Who can you get me in contact with over there? Who can I talk with? Who can I if a lot of times I'm looking for art, so who can I photograph?
Yeah.
Either in the schools or while they're out doing something. So typically that takes a day. So I'll call that night. We'll get everything set up. I'll do an interview in the morning. Interviews last anywhere from some are like a 5-minute conversation. Right? I'm getting 2 or 3 quotes from them and some context. Most interviews last anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. Really, I always ask anywhere from 10 to 15 questions, getting some information that I think is important to our readers.
Yeah.
And most of it is to localize. Right? It always comes back, how does this affect our community? Mm-hmm. The big question is, how does this impact us? And then my favorite question to ask people is, why does this matter? And it's really funny because I was listening to a politician a few months ago he was part of the previous administration, and he was talking about how a reporter asked him a condescending question about, well, why does this matter? And I'm like, was it really put that way to you? Because when I ask why does it matter, it always gets passion out of people.
Yeah.
Because people are passionate about what they care about.
Yeah.
And that's when they give an honest response.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things you're taught in journalism school. When it comes to the why, go after it. Because the why affects you, your reader, and the person who's talking to you.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a why, what's the purpose?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
So, answer your question in a really long way.
Yeah. No,
Is that it's typical day. I get there around 10. I work till about 6, and it's a grind.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, but there are days when it's like I don't know what my story is, so
Yeah.
I'm chasing one.
Yeah.
And so those days are more stressful than the days that I haven't planned for.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, so what we do at the beginning of the week, we send off our story list to our editor. He approves them. If they're approved, good. I got something. I'm great to go.
Yeah.
If not, that's fine. I find more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it just becomes like, is this good? Is this not? Do you think this is a story? Is it not? Maybe it is. And then we like to write anywhere, from 1 to, I think the one that I had the most days was 4 stories, but that was the absolute most.
Yeah.
Typically, it's we like to have at least 2 stories a day from each person.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. If
Yeah.
we can do that,
You're good.
yeah. And sometimes it's hard finding that second story, and
Yeah.
so we're really searching for it. And then turnaround time, as far as after the interview, right? That's 30 minutes. Then it's anywhere from an hour to 2 to write it.
Yeah.
Typically, I would like to get down to an hour.
Yeah.
But that's I get. One of the things that my editor said early on when I started was that he understands creative people procrastinate.
Yeah.
We are deadline driven.
Yeah.
And so as soon as that deadline approaches, we're like, oh, we got to get that in. So we got to
Yeah.
write, we got to type, let's go.
Yeah.
And, just for some reason, a clock can light a fire under you and get you going.
Yes.
Yeah. So like the other day I had to go to, I went to Nortonville, and they had a special called meeting, and I at this time had never been to a Nortonville City Council meeting. I need to get better at doing, but I went to it for the first time, didn't know what was going on, didn't know what was happening, and had to do research the day before just so I could have some context and history, so I knew what questions to ask.
Yeah.
And the meeting went until I think 7 or 7:15, and then I had to drive back, so that put me back here, I think 7:30, 7:45. I had to have it typed and ready by 9.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a panic. That was a lot of fun, but a lot of stress. And I got an email the next day from one of the people who said, I had one mistake, and that's okay. But he's, other than that, I was fair. I represented both sides.
Yeah.
There was a lot of sides going on that night.
I
And I had to find out.
Yeah.
What my editor, voice of reason, he gave it to me and said, okay, now just focus on the facts, stay on that, who, what, where, when, why, how. That's it. That's all you gotta do. Get that to me and we're good.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I felt awful for him because I after I write a story, I'll edit it. So I do 2 edits, right? So I use I don't know if you ever heard of Grammarly.com. Okay, so Grammarly, you just throw it in there. It gives you suggestions. It really focuses on the grammar, and it's great. It's not an end-all, be-all.
Yeah.
It's a computer, and it misses things a lot. Especially as a journalist, it doesn't like the passive voice, so I put things in something, a tense where it hasn't already happened or it is going to happen, and so it doesn't like that. But I'm like, that's what it is. I can't change that at all. And there are ways to make it more active, but the reality is I don't need it to be more active, especially when it's in a direct quote. I'm like, I can't change that.
Yeah, that's what it is. What it is. Yeah.
So, then I print it out, and then I do a physical edit where I go through and I correct it. Well, that night, because it was so fast, I just did the Grammarly edit. And what I normally do is, and this is really funny, I normally copy and paste it and put it back into my Word document. So that way I have my edited version before I hand it off.
Yeah.
And then I print that out and edit. But I didn't do it that night. And so I forgot to copy and paste from Grammarly over to my Word document, and I copied and pasted my Word document into where we have them edited. So basically my editor got the unedited version.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I panicked. I was like, oh, no. So I got that for him, and, it was okay after that. But that was stressful.
Could have been bad.
It could have been, it could have been bad. Because, when we miss we're human,
Yes.
right? So we miss things. There's spellings, and like the other day, I had this story, and I opened it up with this. It's called the lead, the very first paragraph, where it invites the reader in, and in it I use the word imagine. So imagine yourself as a 9-year-old kid, right? But I spelled imagine like the name Imogen. And spell check thinks it's a name. It doesn't think that it's wrong. And my editor's like, so is this the edited version, or is this like the other night? And I'm like, oh no, I thought it was wrong when I typed it.
Yeah.
I just and even when I edit it again, I'm like, this doesn't look right.
Doesn't look right. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what it is, but that's me being a human, not fully remembering how to spell imagine, which was awful.
I would be horrible at that because I would mess stuff up all the time.
Well, and it's really we play this over and over in our heads, that our words are our credibility. When we misspell somebody's name over and over again, that's bad on us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why for me, and whenever I think I've only had it once where I had somebody's name wrong, and I don't even think I have. I don't remember, but I don't think I have. Names are extremely important to me, so I try my hardest.
Sure.
And then what I'll do is a lot of times I'll take my phone, I'll type it out, and they'll repeat it back to me, and then I turn it to them and say, "Is this correct?"
Right? Yeah.
Because your name is who you are.
Yeah.
All right. And as soon as I mess that up in the paper, they're like, well, they didn't really care about me. No, I care about you. I want to get this right.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever? You said you made. You went to that one meeting and someone let you know you made a mistake. I got to think that's a huge responsibility on your back too, whether it be grammar, making a mistake, or even just maybe presenting the story in a different context or wrong, or because like you said, you're under a lot of pressure. It's real quick. Have you ever done that? Like maybe. Not that you're lying in the article, but maybe didn't get all the truth because you're in a, how do,
tight spot.
how do you deal with that, and go back and say, do you go back and say, hey, we were wrong. This is what really.
The only time I've had so what we do, we're called retractions. Yeah. And so the only time I've messed up in the 6 months I've been there was, I can't remember the story directly, but it was regarding numbers. And I've never been diagnosed, but I've always messed numbers up. Yeah. And I messed a number up. And funny enough, the story the other night in Nortonville, I heard a number, and I heard 50,000, but it was actually like 55,000, and I got that wrong. I'm like, dadgummit. Yeah. Always with the number. It's always numbers. Yeah. And it's only happened those 2 times, and those 2 times, I have to say, hey, this is my fault. I messed this up. My goal, and I don't know about every journalist. I don't know what their prerogative is, but for me, it's all what's the truth? Mm-hmm. What did they say? Is this representing the whole side of the story? Did I cut? If somebody says this, what's the rebuttal? Does somebody else have a different side? And if so, what is it? That's the really cool thing about journalism is like I should never have one person's opinion because then it's an opinion and not a fact. Correct. And so you want to always even it out. Well, okay, so here's this person's point of view. Mm-hmm. Okay, let me show the other point of view. Yeah. And so like the other night with the city council, there were some disagreements, but I had to show both sides of the argument. I couldn't just show one and be like, okay, I did my job. Fine. Yeah. I quoted that person. Yeah. Instead of I should have quoted this person too. That's not how it is. I have to be. It's like a scale. You have to weigh it out. What is is it right? Is it accurate? Is it the facts? So when I hear about like journalists not doing that, that's why I went to a place the other day and the media's here. Yeah, I'm like giving you a bad name. Yeah, I'm like, I'm a good person. I think. I hope. It's not just the general we, but it is the collective we. Yeah, we are real people. Yeah, and we really are. Journalists really are just trying to find the truth, talking to everybody who will talk to them, and to present the facts. That's what it should be.
Yeah. It must be tough too, like, because you're trying to do that, but then also this is different than most people's job. You're presenting your work to everybody to look over, to scrutinize, you know what I mean? Like that's I guess you have to be ready for some of that,
Right.
for someone to say, oh, the media, just like that type of, I don't know.
It's interesting, especially when, if I write about somebody that I don't know who they are, who they're related to, and then I find out, oh, they're related to this person. I'm like, I hope I presented them fairly.
Yeah.
Like, this was great, wasn't it? I mean, I did represent them.
Yeah.
It's a weight for sure. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think. Yeah.
Well, it seems like you're, where you're starting at, with wanting to give good news, wanting to represent both sides. Like, I feel like it's probably, it's a weight, but it's not a big one on your shoulders, I wouldn't think, from what you're saying,
Yeah, it's mostly when it comes to writing the stories, it's what it's what's real.
Yeah.
And what's honest, and then hopefully sharing that.
Yeah.
And when I quote somebody, when I have a direct quote, like the other day, I had this person who didn't realize I was quoting them directly. He didn't realize I had and I quoted them, and when I quoted them, like, wow, you used my words, and I was like, yeah, but they're your words. They were showing this program off, and I'm like, wasn't it amazing what you said?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I love what you said, so I wanted it to be that. I didn't want to paraphrase you and me get it wrong.
Exactly.
So like, if you read my work, it kind of has a formula, right? So like, I'll have my lead, then I'll go into another paragraph that's kind of most of it's a paraphrase of what the person says, and then after that, it's direct quote, right? And then a paraphrase of what they say and a direct quote, because I never wanted. There's some stories where I want to put a little bit of myself in there, but I don't think that's right. I think, and I want to present this person's story the best way that I can, and the way that I believe that is to let their words shine.
Yeah. That's cool. It's almost like you're painting a picture of them, and you want it to be as accurate as possible.
Exactly, right. So, like, in that sense, I would rather my words be a realist rather than an abstract painting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want I don't want to mess them up. I think they're perfect the way that they are. But how can I showcase that with the words that they've given me? Yeah,
that's how I was thinking of it. You don't want to just kind of say some stuff. Here's kind of who this person is. Like, no, you want to be like this portrait of, like, this is exactly who they are. And that's cool.
That's the hope.
Yeah. Let me see here. I had a bunch of. This is one thing. When you're interviewing somebody, what's your style of like making someone feel comfortable? Because I've noticed, even doing this, I've done like 13 of them, so that's a whole lot. That's probably like what you do in a week. But I've noticed, like, sitting down and talking with someone, sometimes I've noticed in some of them towards the end of the podcast, they're really like comfortable, but in the beginning, like, it's just kind of slow going to get them. A lot of times I already know who the person is. I know they have an amazing story, and I just want to help present that. But getting them comfortable and stuff. Do you ever run into that, and do you have tricks to help someone know, like, I'm on your side? Like, I just,
I don't know. A lot of this, I don't know about tricks. One thing.
Well, not a trick. I don't want you. We're not trying to trick people, but you know what I mean. Maybe we are. I don't know.
Sometimes to get somebody to talk to you, you have to. You have to make them feel like. I don't know. That seems false.
It's still a bad word.
Yeah. Tricks. I want to be relatable.
Yeah.
Right. Ultimately, that's what I want to be. Right. I want to be that person you don't mind talking to in that moment.
Yeah.
If you've never talked to me, I'll ask you just a few questions. So, like, I went to this thing, and these people it was another one of those ones where it's like, oh, it's the media. I don't want to talk to them. But then I talked to this guy. I was like, man, your mustache is immaculate. How did you get it that way? And he had like one of those like old country western style thick mustaches, and I was like, whoa. And he didn't want to talk to me at all. But as soon as I opened up about that, he really started saying, okay, well, let me talk to you about this. I did this and that. You could grow one too. I can't grow facial hair at all. But it's just it was so exciting because there's this person who didn't want to talk to strangers, didn't want to have anything to do with them, and then I reached out and talked to them about themselves. Yeah. And that opened them up. And as soon as you can get somebody to talk about themselves and about what they're passionate about, you don't grow one of those mustaches for not trying. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You're really putting some love and care into that. Yeah. And especially with the way he was groomed. It was amazing. And so, you see that, you notice that, and then sometimes you like one of the things that I do is like I'll ask them if I can record the conversation, then I'll put my recorder in my pocket, right, and that's just so they don't see it. It's not there. Or the other day I was doing a video and I put the camera off to the side and I said, okay, this isn't here. Yeah. Don't worry about this. Just focus on you and me. Yeah. And we'll have a conversation. And when we have that conversation, that goes away. Paying attention to it. It's no longer there. It's not a problem. Yeah. So I guess those are a few of the things. Just being relatable. Yeah. Finding out their interest, and as soon as you do that, then go into your questions. And hopefully they'll have an answer. Yeah. Yeah.
That's one thing with doing this. Like even I've thought about posting it so I've wanted to do these for. I used to do these when Kayla and I first got married. I would kind of do a video of just me talking, and I'd post them to Facebook. So for the last 7 or 8 years, this has been a theme of something that I want to do. But some of the first ones, like even just me talking into a camera, I was super nervous. This is something I want to do, but like it's like when you have that camera looking at you and you turn it on, like I was scared. I found one of them the other day, and it's just me sitting in the front of the camera for like 5 minutes, just staring at it, like trying to get comfortable. But I think that's one thing when I do these, I can't really set this off to the side. I mean, this is a big, I don't know if people can tell, but this is a big light, shining in our face. We got these microphones, we got the headphones, I think that's one reason a lot of times people are a little uncomfortable when we sit down to do this. And when I edit it, I normally sit down and just start talking, like, what are you doing? Like we were about your microphone, something. And then, if you notice in my videos, like the first minute or so is like jump clips of that. I just kind of show talking with the person, and then I fade into the conversation. And I've had some people, they'd be like, is it started? Are we going now? I'm like, yeah, but I tricked you into just being okay with it. Yeah. But yeah, that's just relating to people. And even without like this, just in other avenues of life, I found like the older I get, like you said, like if you just relate to someone and have them start talking about themselves, like the majority of people are cool with you then, you know what I mean? And just approaching them in that way. And, I think of myself, I like that. Like when people come up to me and they say something about, just anything. I don't really have an awesome mustache, but maybe it's something else, and they see it and I'm like, oh, okay, like this person's cool. I want to talk to them. Yeah. Right. So another thing I wanted, when I messaged you about this, I wanted to talk about everything we talked about, but also I wanted you maybe to give me some tips or pointers on how to be a better interviewer. Because sometimes, I always have like a killer interview in my head, and then I sit down and I'm like, oh man, like this falls short of what I thought it was going to be. I have all these great ideas and questions, and do you have any tips or anything that can help me?
My two favorite tips might not help you right now in the conversation, but may help you towards the end of our conversation.
I'm not trying to throw them on you now.
But no, the two best questions you can ask anybody, and I always save these for my last two questions. Yeah. Right? Why does this matter? And just that flat. Why does this matter?
Yeah.
And as soon as you do that, and I said it a minute ago, but if you can just say that the right way, and get them to not think like the other guy did, where it's like, oh, well, he's being cheeky. It matters.
Yeah.
No, tell me why.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you can tell me why it matters, your passion for it is going to show out.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, or the second tip is, if there is anything else you haven't said, what would you want to say?
Yeah.
And at that point, that's the last question. They know it's the last question, so they're ready to talk.
Yeah.
And the other day, I was talking with this teacher who shared her passion for art and creativity, and it was with that last question. I was like, oh, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for being uniquely you and sharing your passion for your work there.
Yeah.
And I used it in the story
Yeah.
because it was so great that I couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those are the two tricks. Another trick, and this mostly came from a lot of work with video, was as soon as you ask a question, even if there's silence, don't talk. Just wait. And then eventually they'll talk.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal, the power of silence, because it makes people uncomfortable, but two, it really, people, you actually understand it's not that they're being silent right now, they're thinking about their words.
Yeah.
How do I say this? What do I say? And all that is going on inside of their head. And in that moment, I can't just rush in with another question. I have to have patience and wait. And I think if we can do that, those three tips: patience, why, and what else would you want to say?
Yeah.
You've got a pretty killer interview.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are things that before I started this, I was researching like how to do a good podcast, how to do a good interview, and those are on point with what I read, and but you're one about what else would you want to say? I think I can implement that more towards the end of mine, because that's one thing I write this down, because like I said, I would be all over the place if I didn't. This is for me to glance at, but I don't ever want my guests to think I'm trying to like you can't talk. Let me ask my questions. Don't say anything else. You know what I mean? And I don't ever want them to feel that way. And I don't know if I have or haven't, but
you haven't right now.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah.
But yeah, that question, I think I can implement that more, and because ultimately I just want this to be like a conversation, like we just sit down and are just talking, and I'm getting to know you. You know what I mean? Which we are.
Yeah, and that's what my job is. Really just sitting down and getting to know somebody. And a lot of times it's a really quick phone call, 5-10 minutes here and there. I've gotten my facts and stuff from reliable, credible sources. What can you say about that?
Yeah.
Right. And then as soon as I do that, it opens them up, and it's like, okay, wow, cool. I get my quote. But that sometimes that's all I need, a quote or two. Most of the time, people, even if that's all I need, it doesn't matter. I still want to listen to your story and still hear you, because you'll if you're a person who's talked with me on the phone and you realize, like, I've had conversations that have gone 30, 45 minutes. I've had one that went like an hour, and it was so beautiful. I wanted to include as much as I could in there, and so typically my stories range anywhere, and this print jargon, right? It ranges anywhere from 15 to, I think my max, I think I had a 50-inch story, and that's a lot of inches to write in a day, right? So
real quick, what's like, if you were to take a paper and unfold it, what's one whole like front page of a paper?
I don't know.
Is that 50 inches?
I'm not sure. So like I don't know those facts.
I got you.
You also have to understand like how wide
the call. Yeah. I got you.
So I don't know all of those. Okay. And how they figure that out. But what I can tell you is, if you're typing, I think I do 11-point font Arial in Google Documents.
Yeah.
And typically it's anywhere. So basic minimum, 1 page, right? So that's about 10 inches, right? I like to get down to a page 1.25, and that's about 15 inches.
Yeah.
Right. Most days I write 27 to 32 inches, and that is anywhere from a page, I think a page and a half or 2 pages.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's where those lines.
Yeah.
That's why I said it's
The
very
print jargon. Yeah.
print jargon.
I didn't mean to throw you off on what you were saying though.
What was I saying?
I forgot now. I was hoping you. I screwed it.
No, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
My bad.
No, don't worry about it at all.
So there's one thing not to do, not to interrupt you in the middle without remembering where to come back to.
I do that a lot. So,
Yeah.
I feel really bad. Like, I'll go back and I'll listen to the audio of the person I've talked with, and I'm like, I'm writing down because I record every conversation, and so what I'll do after that, there's this app online called it's a AI, but it's otter.ai, I think. No, IO. Sorry, it's otter.io, and what I can do because of my membership, it transcribes
All of your stuff.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. It's not 100% accurate, so
Yeah.
I always have to have my earphones in, listening. Like that's not what this is. There's been some really funny.
I was gonna say, I bet it does get funny.
Yeah, so I have to listen really carefully to what they're saying.
Yeah.
And so I'll go in, and I lost my train of thought again. But essentially, I'm listening and trying to understand what they're saying.
Yeah. Hey, we were talking about like interrupting someone, and you see that in there.
Right. There you go. See, interrupted my own self.
Yeah.
So one of the things when I'm reading the transcript back
Yeah.
is I noticed I interrupted them in the middle of a great quote. And I'm like, and I'm already like about a sentence and a half into the quote. I'm like, where's this going? This is great.
It's getting great.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Nuts. And I messed up. And and it's only happened a few times, maybe 4 or 5 times, but I'm just
Yeah.
patience.
Yeah.
So I even though I said this like a professional, like I should know what I'm doing. Sometimes I'm just human.
Yeah. Well, my biggest critic, which is my wife, and I mean this in a good way, she'll tell me that sometimes if it was a podcast I did or when we're talking to people, she's like, you cut them off, like right in the minute. I'm like, oh, wait, yeah. Like I probably don't admit to her in the moment that I did, but later on I'm like, oh, yeah, I did. And I'm trying to get better. I want to be a great interviewer and I want to give people that space, but sometimes I'm like, if I don't ask this, I'll forget. Let me interrupt them. Yeah. Okay, so as we're talking about not interrupting each other, my voice recorder just quits and interrupting us right in the middle of our conversation. But while it turned off, you said this. You're talking about your voice recorder, yours that you use, and the battery. Have you ever had something like that happen?
All the time.
And then you
freak out.
Missed
Yeah. So when I first started, I actually didn't have a voice recorder. But one of the things I noticed people were doing, this was somebody from the radio and somebody from one of the other news outlets, they would use their phone to record. So I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'll use my phone. I'll record the conversation. It's fine. I used a couple of apps previously, talking about like a Rode microphone.
Yeah.
Well, Rode has an app called Rode Reporter. And so I used it a few times, but it would close on me, and it wouldn't let me know. Or I didn't want it to be intrusive and, hey, this is recording.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So I would turn my phone over, and as soon as I would turn my phone over, it would turn off.
Right at the that's horrible. You didn't get anything.
Nothing. Yeah.
Oh my
so
gosh.
I would freak out. So now I have redundancies, which is really funny. So I'll have my standard voice recorder, and I'll hit record on it. But also on my watch, there's an app on here, and so right now, let's see, it's called Just Press Record.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be doing it right now. Anyway, hold on. There it goes. Oh, sorry. I don't know if you all can see that, but basically it's recording us right now.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's just a backup. And then what will happen is there's a connecting app on the phone, and I can send that directly to my transcriber, Otter.
That's awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I don't want to wait to upload audio from my voice recorder, I can do it right there.
Yeah.
And it just saves me probably 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because what will happen is I'll have to go in, put the USB into my computer, upload it, and then if it's a 30-minute conversation, which happens often, that takes about 10 to 15 minutes for it to transcribe.
Really?
Which
that's not bad when you really think about it. But yeah,
it really isn't, because it'll take me like an hour and a half to transcribe it. So, and it's not accurate, but it's better than not.
Yeah.
And I would say it's actually, I think it's like 92% accurate.
Yeah.
So you really got to listen, which I think. So I'm not gonna lie. So when we talked about that, mishearing 50 to 55, that was one of the reasons why. It's my error for sure, but it's because I relied on that
a little too much. Yeah.
And so I should have taken a minute, paused, and actually listened to it instead of just reading the transcript, because then I would have been more accurate.
Yeah.
And so now, now I know that when it comes to numbers, please just listen to it. Always listen to the transcript. Yeah. Always. Yeah.
You're talking about like learning stuff, like you said, like the voice recorder and it going off. So on some of my videos I've done, like halfway through the video, I'll just cut to like a still picture, but you can still hear the audio. Well, that's because in the beginning I didn't know, like if I got a phone call on my phone, it cuts the video off, Or one I did a few back, I started recording in 1080 HD at 60 frames, per second. And the phone I was using, I didn't think about like the size of the file that it was going to be. So at the end of that, it was like a 15 gig, for an hour. Well, my phone wouldn't hold that much data, so it cut off. So I had to, in post, I had to like cut to like a still picture. But some of that stuff I've tried to learn and maneuver around, and I feel like I need a redundancy too, like maybe another camera to be shooting. But because like you want to have all that, but then when you don't, you're like, oh my gosh, like this was, why didn't I do something different?
Right.
Yeah.
There'd be times, and when I was trying to do video with my DSLR, when I would go into post, what I would notice is that I would focus manually. And so when I would do that, on the back of the camera, you can zoom in. And
focus on the small.
Right. And so I would do that. And when I would do that, I was like, okay, I got it. I'm good. Right. But then I didn't realize, like, after I unzoomed out, I might have hit the focus ring. Right.
It changed.
Modern cameras, like, which is really sad when you come to the 5D Mark III, because, I mean, it was such a powerhouse when it first came out.
Yeah.
But now, like just about every camera has that autofocus, and it focuses on the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Well, mine doesn't do that. I have to either manual focus or put the focus on in the beginning and just leave it.
Yeah.
What would happen is I wouldn't tell people that, so they wouldn't know, stay still, right?
And they'd move.
And I would shoot at a really low f-stop, so like a 1.4, so it'd be nice and bokeh in the background,
but
which
if they
is
move
fantastic. But as soon as they moved, I was like, like I had this one guy. He was so fun. He was very laid back, very, very much kind of a coastal type personality when I lived in Florida. Long hair. He talked about surfing quite a bit. But what would happen is I got him nice and set up, kind of like you are. But as soon as we went into the conversation,
he leaned back.
And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about
Didn't
it.
think about it
until I saw it in post. I'm like, this was fantastic.
Yeah.
I sure hope I have enough B-roll to cover over top of it.
Yeah.
Because, I want him to, same with everybody that I talk with. I always want to show and represent their best self, what they're offering, and hopefully I'm doing them justice.
Yeah.
That's one of my hopes. And for his and his nonprofit, I wanted to show them in their best light. I'm just like, bud, you're out of focus.
You could have been like, he's just naturally really blurry like that.
Yeah,
that's what he looks like.
Well, yeah, that's what it was.
Let's see. What else do I have on here? I asked you everything I wanted to ask and how I can be a better interviewer. So let me. I think we talked earlier about your why, like why you want to do this, and I think I just want to applaud you and cheer you on. I think it's awesome that you want to do good stories and put them out and showcase like what the community really is, like what you said you found. I think that's awesome. Because I think sometimes I can be the person to be like, oh, there's the media, because sometimes you just, sometimes the bad stuff's just thrown in your face a lot and you don't see the good. And I think it's something that I need to do more is I see some of your articles and I read them, but read them more, and see that. So I guess my other question to you would be, is there anything else that you this is my first time saying it. I'll be a little more smooth next time, but is there anything else you'd like?
So I was talking about how names are important.
Yeah.
All right. So I've talked to several other Brandons in the past few months actually, and so I always ask them, do you know? And I had to change how I asked it because I would ask them, do you know what our name means? And they're like, what? I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Do you know what your name means? Right? Because they forget that I'm Brandon too. And so I ask them, do you know what your name means? And they're like, no. I always am sad about that because names, they have a funny way of playing into our truths.
Yeah.
Right? So Brandon actually means beacon of light.
Really?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Right. And so I always, my mom, she was always so fun. We had our names, our first, middle, and our clan name, Buchanan, where that came from, its origins, and it was posted on our wall in our house, and I always remember seeing that beacon of light. And in high school, somebody tried out for a baseball team, and they asked me what does my name mean, and I don't even know why. And I said beacon of light, so they called me the freaking beacon. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah. You're taking it out of context,
right? So I always wanted to know, maybe, hopefully, my name is a little bit of my truth.
Yeah.
Right? Who am I? What is my why? Right.
Yeah.
So I want to be a beacon. I want to show those light that light to the world. Initially, yes, I thought it was being in a church and being a pastor. I wanted to be a pastor who went around and spoke to large crowds, but I'm like, I don't like large crowds, so that probably isn't the best bet for me.
Yeah. But if you think about it, like,
that's what I'm doing now.
In some respect, it's what you're doing now.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Just not with my voice, which is great, actually. I've said quite a few times, but when I ask questions, a lot of times, I'll have the few that are planned, but then somebody will ask something, and I have really bad stammer, and I only know this from listening to my voice recordings, and it irks me so much because I'm just like, I'm so sorry. How did I ever want to be a public speaker? How did I ever think this was going to be my life? Because I just start stuttering, and it's who I am, right? So my words are much more powerful in ink, I believe. And so, what else would I want to say? I'd want to say, these, this is probably more gimmicky or whatever, but my views do not represent the Messenger or Paxton Media for who I work for. But, ultimately this is me. This is, why I'm a journalist. I got into journalism, right? So after I went to journalism school, I was a teacher for a few years. I taught English and yearbook, and I always thought it was really funny to teach English and yearbook without actually being a journalist. And I'm like, man, I kind of like going back now. I wish I'd done it, like flipped it, because I have so much more to offer them now than I did then. What it's like to be a professional. Like, this is the weirdest thing to think. But I'm a professional writer.
Yeah.
that blows my mind because I never thought I'd be a writer.
Yeah.
But I'm a writer.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And I always thought of myself more of a creative, video, photography, producing yearbooks, going out, helping manage that time. What should my students be doing? What should they be looking for? But now, I have this perspective, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait till further down the road till I can share this perspective with either with future journalists or more students, so they can know what it's really like grinding, trying to get 2, 3, sometimes 4 stories a day, and how much fun it can be. Because just get to talk to people.
Yeah.
Really, it's more than that. It's you get to listen to people, and that's if I could leave your people with anything, take the time to listen. One thing I wish I had done, and this is probably just me being who I am and still in a kind of a grieving process. My grandfather passed away recently, and one of the things I wish I had done more. Whenever I would sit with my papa, we would just sit and it would be in silence, and then some joke would happen or something like that. But it was just there, me and him just existing together.
Yeah.
One of my, I guess it's a regret, but I guess I wish I would have asked him more questions. Like you've been such a rock and a foundation to my family, right? How did you do that?
Yeah.
What was your why? I wish I could have asked him that. So I guess take the time and listen and ask questions of the people you care about the most.
Yeah.
Because you don't know when that's up.
No.
And I want to know more about the people I love. I get to know about strangers every day. But like I moved back home. Madisonville's home. I moved back here, and I see my cousins still at Christmas or Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen them too much of that, except maybe at the store. And I want to set time and say, hey, let's get to know each other a little bit better. Let's ask more questions of each other. Who are you? What do you do?
Other than my cousin, who are you? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Man, that resonates with me. I guess one of my whys for doing this, same thing. Like I had grandparents when I was young. I was a little too young to know questions to ask them, if that makes sense. Like now that I'm older, I'm like, man, I have so many questions I wish I could have asked. But they're passed and gone. My grandmother, I lost her, it hasn't quite been a year ago. But in the last few years of her life, anytime I was with her, I would sit down and start asking questions. And she was in her 80s. She grew up in Seabury, which is right up the road. Probably one of the older people in Seabury, and I said, well, tell me about Seabury. And she'd tell me all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is like a wealth of knowledge that no one knows. And it was about a week before she passed, she was at my house. And I asked her, I said, Granny, I said, if it would be okay with you, I want to sit down and just video you to ultimately this. I was trying to explain it to her because she didn't know really what I was wanting. But I said, I want it for our family so we can have. And you can tell all these stories and because I can't remember them, and we can put it on video and I can give it to everybody. And she said, okay. And she just started talking then. And I was like, no. Like, let's do it another time. And, ultimately she passed before I got time to do that. And it's the same thing. Like, man, like so much I want to ask it. And after that, I was like, you know what? I had a list of people I wanted to sit down and talk to. I was like, I'm just going to ask them, go after it. I don't have to know everything like beforehand, how I'm going to edit and do all this. And I started going after it. But, it's crazy how situations like that can like change your mind and be like, I need to be more intentional. Like looking down the road, I need to do this more. And I need to do it more with my family. Some of my family members I don't see a lot. Sit down with them. But yeah, I'm the same way. Like I love talking to people and getting to know them and their story. And when we when you agreed to do this, I started thinking, I was like, man, why in high school did I not like get on the yearbook thing or do some of these journalism, like, cause like now when I'm old, like I'm 32 and I'm like reaching out to people cause I want to do it. Like, why didn't I learn when I was younger? But I don't know why, but all this stuff interests me and I just want to thank you for giving me some tips and stuff and some insight on it. I feel like I'm rambling on now.
No,
but
I didn't know about it either. And that's not entirely my fault. I was homeschooled, so
yeah.
like I didn't know it was an option.
Yeah.
I knew Dad. He was on yearbook at North, and he always would talk about actually cutting out the pictures and pasting it on. I'm like, wow, that's where cut and paste came from.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And I was like, man, that would be so much fun. And then when the yearbook position came open. I'm like, okay. And so I went down to the person who I was replacing. She was retiring, and so she spent a full day and a half with me just going over what I needed to know. And I'm like, wicked, this is so cool. Why didn't I know about this? Why didn't I know this is a possibility? And that led for a little while into what I did before the Messenger, which was I published my own magazine, right? Which is something I eventually would love to do again, because I love print. I love creating it and making all of it, from collaborating with writers to collaborating with photographers to getting them all to put their creativity onto a page, and then that page be something that's permanent. Is amazing. Like if you go to the, like I said earlier, the Genealogical Society or the Historical Society, you can see years of the Messenger. And it's phenomenal. And some of it they have archived digitally. But you can still just go there and say, hey, I'm looking for this. I want to know a little bit about that. And okay, let's help you.
That's awesome.
It's amazing.
That's one thing I've wanted to make a short film or something, like go down there and look at some of that. I love all that as well.
The history of this town, it's here. If you want to know it, you can go and find it. And it's incredible. Like, I got to go while students were there, and they were researching their own genealogy. This is so cool. And they got to find people that they didn't even know they were related to, because those stories had been lost. And so they got to reconnect and see stories of who their family members were just through history.
That's so cool. I love all that. I love it. So do they have someone there all the time at the?
I believe so. They have hours. So like even the Historical Society, they have winter hours right now. I think it's 12 to 4, and during their normal hours, it's like 1 to 5. And so I think those are the right.
We can look it up.
I was like, don't quote me. Put that in the show notes. So like it's it's those. I don't know. And then the Genealogical Society, every time I've called, they've had somebody there. Teresa Ray is a contact who's always willing to help when I go there. She's amazing and very knowledgeable on how to find things. I did a story about an Eagle Scout, or he was an Eagle Scout candidate who was building shelves to house all of the archives of the Dawson Springs the Dawson Progress. The Daily Progress? Oh, crud. I think it's the Daily Progress.
We'll put that in the notes too.
And so all these years of the progress, it's 100 years of the history just there, right? Messenger goes back, I think we're 102 years old now. I think. Or 100, we'll be 103 this year, so 1917 was when we were founded. So all of it's there.
That's crazy.
Amazing.
That's nuts.
And you can find it, and some of the really cool stuff. One of the just talking to people in general, I got to go to cover something at Providence or whatnot, and I was talking to a former mayor there. Didn't know he was the mayor, just one of those random people I walk up to and say, "Hey, can you tell me about this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I used to be the mayor." I'm like, fantastic. You're the person. Perfect person. He was telling me they were doing a car show in this parking lot. He's like, this didn't used to be a parking lot. I'm like, really? What was it? He's like, oh, this was like a 3-story building. I'm like, amazing. Wow. He's like, there's a skating ring in the second floor. I'm like, that sounds so cool. A skating ring on a second floor? I've never even thought of that. You know? Like, I've always had, here's a skating ring, one level. Like
that would be cool.
Wouldn't it?
Right. That's cool too, because like you said, like if you don't have those conversations, like some of that stuff's lost, you know.
And like if you go down to the Historical Society, they have a big mug with the old movie theater from here in town.
Really?
And it had like a drawing of it. I'm like, that building's not there. And it just made me sad, because I'm like, I remember that. Barely. But I remember it. It was something that's so beautiful, but things change.
That's one thing when I used to talk to my grandma, I loved hearing her talk about, stuff that used to be and isn't anymore. And she even gave me some old stuff that she had, and it's just cool. Like my wife looks at it, she's like, what is that, like hunk of junk? And I'm like, no, my Granny said this came from here, and it has sentimental value, and like that building's not there anymore. She gave me this little safe that they used to use. So there used to be a train depot there in Seabury, and it was a safe that they used to keep money and stuff in, going up and down the tracks. And she gave it to me, and just, it's so cool. It doesn't look like anything. Like if someone broke into our house and wanted to take it, they would never know what it is because it looks pretty rough. But yeah, just the history and knowing what used to be, and I love it. I love it. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you doing this, and maybe we'll have you come back on again sometime.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.